Story time about my extremely toxic boyfriend. So when I was in high school, I was dating this boy for 3 months. We're gonna call him Nick. And my friends hated him because he was super mean to all of them, but he was super nice to me. Well, after dating for about a month, he started acting super weird. Like, he stopped paying attention to me, he didn't want to hang out with me. And I was going through a depression this time because my dad had just died. I wasn't really doing my makeup anymore, I wouldn't do my hair anymore, and I started gaining a little bit of weight because all I would do is sleep in bed all the time, eat 24/7. Well, soon our 2 months was coming up, and he wanted to go to this party. So I literally begged him to FaceTime me, and I was asking him, oh, what should I wear? So I put on this dress that was really tight-fitting, which I was already super uncomfortable about wearing because of the fact that I had a little bit of a belly now. So he picks me up, we go to this party, and I go and I start hanging out with a few of my friends. Well, one of my friends comes over and shows me something that he posted on his private story, Life for Part 2. Part 2 about my extremely toxic boyfriend. So like I said, one of my friends comes over and shows me something that he posted on his private story. It was literally a screen recording of me trying to get the dress on that was super tight fitting. And then a screenshot of my face after when I had the dress on. Because obviously I was upset that it didn't fit the way it did before. And the video said, imagine having a girlfriend that was fat as hell. Ooh, I have one. Then the picture of me said, ooh, she's sad now, like what the fuck, go to the gym and lose some weight. On his private story, which had one of my friends, and she was super pretty, and apparently he tried getting with her. That's a whole nother story. So after that, I Ubered home from the party, and as soon as I got home, I started crying and I told my older brother about it. So he literally drove us back to the party and beat the absolute shit out of my boyfriend. Well, someone called the cops, my brother spent a night in jail, and my boyfriend got an underage. And my brother won't talk to me now because I'm back with my boyfriend.
Story time of the most dirtiest college roommate ever. By the way, we're calling her Jessie. So I moved in before Jessie and I get settled and decorate. The next day, she comes and throws her bag on the bed, then leaves. I thought it was weird because she didn't even say anything to me. Couple hours later, she comes back and I'm like, hello? And she's like, my bad, and comes gives me a hug. She smelled very bad. She starts unpacking all of her clothes and blankets, but they smelled like mildew. Anyways, a week later, there's this party going on for freshmen, and she goes, but I stay in because I had a migraine. I told her that when she comes back, can she keep the light off? Now it's 2 a.m., and she comes back in very loud, uses the bathroom, then goes to sleep. And now I'm up, so I got up to use the bathroom too. When I sit down on the toilet, I feel something very squishy. It was dark because, like I said, I had a migraine. I get up, turn the light on, and I was sitting in her shit.
My husband and I were expecting our first daughter, and he suggested the name Tiffany, and I fell in love. When I asked what made him pick it, he said he saw it in a movie. I didn't think much of it, and so a couple weeks later, I called my sister-in-law to let her know we're going to name our daughter Tiffany. She was super surprised because she said she never wanted to name her child after her husband's high school girlfriend. I was really confused, but then she told me that they were together from sophomore year of high school to junior year of college. I knew he had a long-term relationship, but I never knew the girl's name. After hanging up, I confronted my husband, and he tried blowing it off at first, but eventually admitted that it was true. I told him I'm refusing to name my daughter after his ex-girlfriend, and he told me it's too late, I'm overreacting, and I can't change my mind since I'm only due in 5 more weeks. I basically cried to get as much information as I can when he finally told me that she had contacted him because she was getting married and was having second thoughts. My husband admitted that talking to her made him realize he never stopped having feelings for her, but he loved me too. The reason he suggested the name was because he knew he couldn't leave me to be with her, so he wanted something to honor her with. What do I do?
Story time of how my parents forced me to marry a 40-year-old man when I was 14, but most people from my country, it is called arranged marriage, and it happened to a lot of girls. My family was poor, but the guy I was marrying had a lot of money and promised to take care of me and my family. He also had a 6-year-old son, but he didn't like me. I had met him once before when my mother introduced him to us. She allowed me to stay with him alone. He was very touchy. He told me I was very beautiful and would spoil me because pretty girls like me deserve pretty things. After he left, I told my parents that I was scared to marry him and that I'll do more housework and I'll take care of my other little sisters. My father yelled at me and told me no. So the next week, I went throughout the whole wedding crying. My mom told me to stop because I was messing up my makeup. After we had got married, a couple months later, he grew very abusive. Part 2 will be up next. This is part 2 of how my parents forced me to marry a 40-year-old man and I was 14. So we got married and a couple months into the relationship, he became abusive. Whenever my food tasted nasty or something wasn't clean right, he called me a lazy wife and told me I was no good and he should have married someone else. His 6-year-old son had no respect for me. The little boy scratched me, would yell at me, throw stuff at me, and my husband wouldn't do anything about it. I would tell him that I didn't like how his son was treating me, and he stood up and tells me to stay in my place and tells me I'm just a bad mother. I'd cried every night, wishing I could go back home to my mother and father. 2 years later, when I turned 16, I found out I was pregnant. He was so happy about it, and for once, he treated me so sweet. He would cook for me, clean, and told his son to be nice because his little brother was in there. When we found out the baby was a girl, he got mad and walked out on me. Part 3 will be up next. This is part 3 of how my parents forced me to marry a 40-year-old man and I was 14. So my husband was excited that I was pregnant, but when he found out I was having a baby girl, he got very upset and walked out of the room. When we got home, he started treating me nasty again. He then started putting his hands on me. He was just very angry at me and never wanted to see his daughter. It took him 3 weeks before picking her up, but even then, he wanted nothing to do with her. As years went on, I became quiet and I wouldn't speak to him. I would just make sure our home was clean and the children were taken care of. He would just get upset with me that I wouldn't speak to him and accuse me of cheating. He claimed that I was sleeping with other men and that our daughter is probably not even his child. I never understood why because I was always home because he didn't allow me to go out. But I soon realized he only accused me of cheating because he was cheating the entire time. Part 4 is coming up soon. This is part 4 of how my parents forced me to marry a 40-year-old man and I was 14. My husband would always accuse me of cheating, but I found out he only accused me because he was cheating on me the entire time. Ended up finding out because his son told me. And like I said earlier, his son never liked me in the first place. So when I had made him upset, he randomly said, "That's why my dad has a new woman." I was off about it, so I went to ask my husband about it, and he admitted to it. He was very blunt about it, and he told me it was because the lady tempted him. I believed him at the time, but as time grew on, I started to become very insecure. I'd do whatever he want, but it was never good enough because he still kept stepping out of our marriage. On my 19th birthday is when I realized I had to figure out a way for me and my daughter to leave him. He didn't even say happy birthday to me, and that was my husband. I had no money, I didn't own anything, but I took a chance, so I packed whatever I could, and I planned for me and my daughter to run away while he went to work. This is part 5 of how my parents forced me to marry a 40-year-old man and I was 14. So like I said before, I made a plan for me and my daughter to run away while he went to work. When he left, I packed up food, clothes, and took money that we saved up just in case something happened. I woke my daughter up out of her sleep and I told her we need to go. I woke her son up and I told him we were going to the store and that we would be right back. He went right back to sleep and I gathered our things and took me and my daughter to the train station. She asked where we were going and I told her we were going to see our other family. When we got on the train, my daughter went to sleep and I cried because of all the pain I was put through with my husband. I left and I wasn't able to say goodbye to my mother, father, or any of my younger sisters. I didn't want any of them to know because I knew they were going to try to send me back. And leaving was the best decision that I made of my life. It's now been 23 years and I found my now husband and we're living a better life. And I bless God for allowing me to
Here's the story time of my 11th birthday sleepover while I'm making a crappy Twilight cake. So I invited 5 other girls to my house for a sleepover. This includes Tessa and Lila. We had a friend group at the time, but this included so much drama. Anyways, the first thing that happened was when I told Tessa that I invited my neighbor to the sleepover. Tessa, however, did not like this and refused to come. She then came because free food. Hashtag cancel 5th grade Tessa. This isn't even the beginning. When the sleepover started, we all knew that Lila had soccer at 6 a.m. and couldn't sleep over. I don't remember exactly what happened, but one thing led to another and Tessa and Lila locked themselves in a room to talk to each other. They wouldn't come out until it was time to go to the restaurant. At the restaurant, however, they again went into the bathroom and didn't come out until it was time to leave. When we got home, we decided, hey, let's do a talent show. Me and the other girls did a funny dance while Tessa and Lila did a really serious one to a water fountain. My mom was the judge and said that our group won. Lila did not like this. She stormed into the bathroom crying, so we just left her be. Posting part 2 now. Part 2 to my 11th birthday sleepover while I make a crappy Twilight cake. Disclaimer, this actually wasn't a cake, it was a brownie. I made a mistake. So when Lila finally came out, she said that she called her mom and asked to sleep over, and her mom said yes. We all pretended to be happy, of course, until the next round of the talent show. Lila started smack-talking the play we made up, and I started to cry and scream, "You're ruining my birthday," because 11-year-old me was really dramatic. We also played hide and seek, and one of the girls crapped herself. Eventually, we settled down, and I told everyone that I wanted to watch my favorite movie, but everyone kept telling me the movie was stupid, so they all left to go to sleep, leaving me all alone to stay up and finish the movie by myself on my birthday. In the morning, we all had to wake up at 5 a.m. because Lila had soccer, therefore we were sleep deprived. None of the girls in this story are still my friends besides Tessa. Tessa has changed over the years and is now the sweetest person you'll ever meet. She follows me, so hi Tessa! Here's the finished cake, and if you don't get the joke, here's the clip. Also, I don't know why it was so hard to cut. It's kind of funny. The piece fell over.
My monkey man.
Story time of how I found out my boyfriend was cheating on me with my cousin. My boyfriend and I had been together for 2.5 years. His family loved me and my family loved him, and they expected us to get married. Well, last year when COVID started, we were actually in different countries, so we didn't see each other for 3 months. During those 3 months, we FaceTimed 4 times a day, and we were always texting. He happened to be quarantining in our hometown, so both of our families were in the same place. I was quarantined in a different country. One day my cousin calls me and tells me that she met a really nice guy on a dating website. I was so happy for her because she had had bad luck with guys. Every single week, her and I would catch up on the phone, and she would tell me how much she liked this guy, and how amazing their dates were, and how amazing he was in bed, how sweet and considerate he was. I couldn't be happier for her. Well, when I finally get back home, my boyfriend is super distant and cold. So naturally, I called my cousin and complained. She told me to give him space. She said I should just leave him alone. And so like an idiot, I did leave him alone. One day my cousin calls me and tells me to come over for dinner. When I got there, my boyfriend's car was parked in her garage. I thought it was just her nice way of trying to get us to talk. I'd walk in and catch them doing the dirty on the couch, come back for part 2. So I walk in on my cousin and my boyfriend doing the dirty on her couch. They quickly get up from the couch and get dressed. Of course, by that time, I'm in hysterics. I'm crying and yelling. My boyfriend instantly got on his knees and begged me for forgiveness. I went up to my cousin and I punched her right in the face. She wasn't expecting that. And I said, "Well, this is the guy that you've been dating, isn't it?" She said yes, and that she was just trying to find the best way to tell me. And so she just thought the best way to tell me was to get me to walk in on her and him doing the dirty. I punched her again. My boyfriend came to her rescue, though. Instantly went into hero mode, which made me even angrier, so I punched him too. I stormed out of her house and went back to my house. Well, I told my parents everything. And my dad went over to my uncle's house, my cousin's dad, and he told him everything. She was about to turn 19, so he took away her phone and her car. And I get a phone call from my ex, come back for part 3. So my lying, cheating ex calls me and explains to me why he actually slept with my cousin. He said that he was so lonely and that he didn't know what to do, and that the closest thing to me he could find was my cousin. Right, as if that was any comfort to me. He said I should be grateful that I didn't cheat with someone else. I told him he had totally betrayed my trust and that I could never ever trust him again. And then he confessed that she was pregnant and that his parents wanted them to get married. He said he just wanted to give me a heads up. Then he said that we could still be together but just not tell anyone, so basically he wanted me to be his side piece. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of his mouth. It was like I didn't know this man. Guess what I did? I recorded the entire conversation. So I went straight to my cousin and I let her listen to it. She was so shocked. She couldn't believe that he would offer to have me as a side chick. Well, I also let my uncle listen to it. He went to my ex's house and beat him up. Honestly, that made me sad, but he deserved it. They now have a baby and he's gained 50 pounds. Trust your instincts, girl, and always record your conversations. Also, how cute are my nails?
One time I was behind the register at Victoria's Secret. This customer walks in and immediately everybody spots her as a red flag. She's just picking up items, throwing them in her bag, not looking at sizes, not looking at colors. So everybody's like, Everyone's on their walkie like, watch this customer. She's coming to the fitting room. She's headed to the cash wrap. Somebody get her. Check her ID. Get her. Get her. She has a bag full of stuff. And guess who gets her at the register? Me. So she comes to my register and she dumps out her stuff and we're having a regular conversation. Hi, how are you? Yada, yada, yada. Her total comes up to probably between $700 to $900. It was expensive. My manager is at the register next to me talking to me on the walkie. Ashley, make sure you get that ID. Don't matter what she's using, make sure you get that ID. So I ask her for the ID because she's paying credit. Why do you need to ask for my ID? Just take it, run it. I'm like, no ma'am, I'm sorry, I need your ID for the purchase. She starts to raise her voice at me.
This is the time I had a racist Uber driver. So for my birthday this year, we decided to go to Cheesecake Factory and walk around the mall after we drank. It was me, my boyfriend, and his 2 friends, who are also my friends. Obviously, we couldn't drive there if we were drinking, so we called an Uber driver. The first Uber driver was nice. He was cool. Then the Uber driver that picked us up from the Cheesecake Factory, different story. Right off the bat, he looked like a clown. He pulls up in what looks like a white 1998 Honda Odyssey minivan. If you're curious, just look up what that looks like on Google Images. And he had all these stickers on it. Taxi stickers, obviously the Uber sticker, Lyft sticker, Trump stickers. And when we get in the minivan, he's wearing a legit top hat. Like when you see a chauffeur wear a top hat in the movies, and a striped white and black outfit. He had an Alexa plugged into his car, and he put post-it notes up that say, in quotes, "Say Alexa play." So then my friend was like, "Hey Alexa, play Pop Smoke." I'm sorry, I really needed to give you this backstory, but like for part 2.
This is the time I had a racist Uber driver part 2. So we were all bumping to Pop Smoke, and we were all teed, so we decided to mess with him. We started asking him random questions, like, oh, how do you like driving as an Uber driver? Or what's your craziest experience with Uber? So we get to chit-chatting, and then my friend Mike decides to like pretend that he was a drug dealer and starts bragging that he bought a brand new 2020 Audi with his dealer money, which he didn't, and he's not a dealer. And the guy's like, yeah, I've definitely had my fair share of drug dealers. And we were like, how did you know? Like, what happened? And he was like, I've picked up my fair share of black people. And I was like, excuse me, sir, what? What did he say? But not for real, I was tight. I was like, excuse me, what? And I was like, so, like, what, how? And mind you, I was like teed. And when I'm teed, I kind of just say what's on my mind. And I was like, so you think every black person is a drug dealer? And he was like, pretty much. So when he goes to drop us off, I poured out my leftover fettuccine alfredo in his car and screamed he was a racist piece of shit. This is a story of the time that I caught my neighbor's mom talking smack about me. So I don't know about you guys, but every single Wednesday in my middle school, we would have a bagel sale. And some people's parents would come in to help out. And my neighbor's mom was one of those parents. And I had a best friend at the time whose mom would also work at the bagel sales. But this best friend of mine, her mom never let us hang out with each other because she felt that I was a bad influence on her. When in reality, it was the complete opposite. She was the one that snuck the boys in her house, if you guys remember that story time, where they peed in a flower pot. So basically her mom wouldn't let us hang out. And sometimes my friend would go with her mom in the morning, basically as a ride to school, and to help out with the bagels too. And one day when she went in with her mom, my neighbor's mom also was there too. So my friend starts eavesdropping into their conversation, and my friend's mom brings me up and says how much of a bad kid I am and a bad influence. And my neighbor's mom was like, oh wow, that's my neighbor. Like, we always suspected something bad about her. Our whole entire neighborhood knows this about her. Basically making stuff up about me. So then I go home crying, tell my mom. Part 2 of catching my neighbor's mom talking smack about me. So my best friend tells me all these things that my neighbor was saying about me, obviously. And I got really upset, so I went home and I just started to cry. Because for some reason I felt like when I was younger, every one of my friends' parents hated me. And I never really knew why. I was always the type of person to like let my friends do whatever they want and encourage them in doing whatever they want, whether that's breaking the rules or following the rules. So I mean, I guess that could be something, but I'm just being a supportive friend, like... Sorry, I got off topic. So when I told my mom, she was like, okay, come with me, I'm gonna knock on her door. And I was like, heck no, I do not feel like dealing with this. Mom, you deal with it. So she calls her up on the phone, puts her on speakerphone, confronts her about the situation, and this lady starts going on about how she loves me like I'm her own child, saying that I was never a bad influence on her daughter, and that she actually wanted me to hang out with her daughter more. Like, that's not what she was saying at bagel sale. This is the reason why everybody thought I dropped out of high school. Over the 4 years of high school, I was probably in school a total of 100 times altogether. And this wasn't because I was lazy. I mean, partially. But it was mostly because I had really bad stomach problems. So I always had these doctor's appointments. I was always missing school because my stomach hurt. So then my junior year, since my attendance was really, really bad, they decided to put me on home instruction. This means that teachers will come to my house for about 2 hours a day, 3 days a week. And my teachers had to bring with them these time slips. For example, saying that they saw me from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And when I was a minor, my dad had to sign it. And when they hand in those time slips, those are the hours they're getting paid for. So I had this one teacher. She was my history teacher, but we would literally just gossip the entire time. She was mad chill. Sometimes, though, she would cancel on me, and sometimes I would cancel on her. But this was my senior year, so I was 18. So I was able to sign the time slips. So I saw her once a month when I was supposed to see her 4 times a month. So every time she came, I signed 4 time slips. I got the credit, she got the check.
Tell me you have a white mom without telling me you have a white mom.
My mom had no idea how to do my hair. She tried and she tried and she tried, and I screamed and I screamed and I screamed. So she did the right thing. Put my little 2-year-old self in a car, drove to an all-black, all-natural hair studio here in St. Louis, walked in, set me on the counter, and said, and I quote, "Help me. I am an ignorant Caucasian woman, and I have no idea what I'm doing." The entire hair studio busted out laughing. And my mom took it like a champ. She was like, yes, I'm ignorant. Please, laugh at my ignorance. Please, please. And once the laughing died down, this beautiful black woman came up to my mom and said, come here, honey. I'm gonna show you what to do. So she showed my mom the basics, braids, twist, cornrows, etc. My mom got loaded up on natural hair supplies. My mom even went the extra mile and took braiding classes. And from then on, she knew exactly what she was doing. And my hair looked cute as fuck.
One day in elementary school, it was lunchtime. A bitch had to go potty. It was poo-poo time. So I remember I went to the restroom and I was exploding or whatever. And these girls walked in. We're gonna call them the Chipettes, okay? This is the best part. So the Chipettes start yelling in the bathroom. Is someone here? Can someone hear me? Like, I didn't say anything. I was literally taking a shit. Like, what? These girls, deadass, start laughing. They turn off the lights in the bathroom. They turn on all the sinks, whatever. And they start saying like Bloody Mary or some shit. And then the Chipettes run out of the bathroom and shut the door. So here I am getting casted on. I remember seeing a shadow. I fell on my ass and I start screaming and crying. It wasn't good. So someone called the janitor. Janitor walks in to check up on me. It's a guy.
Oh my fucking god, I cannot believe that I just fucking did that. I have never left the beach so fast in my fucking life. I am so embarrassed. So tell me how the fuck people were kite surfing at the beach and my dumbass didn't realize that they were kite surfing and I'm laying in the water like a fat whale, and while I'm laying there minding my business, all of a sudden I see this huge shadow and I think it's a shark. So I start screaming at the top of my lungs that there's a shark in the water, and I literally run out of the water screaming and people start running with me, and then when we all leave the fucking water, it was the shadow. Oh my god, I have never, bitch, I need to get back to my apartment, bitch. Oh my god, are you kidding me? That did not just happen to me. Bitch, they were looking at me like I was lost. Oh my god. One lady said, are you stupid, bitch? Obviously. Oh my god, are you kidding me? Brian, you did not just do that. That is so fucking embarrassing. Oh my god, I have never been so fucking embarrassed in my whole life. Bitch, I really thought that it was a shark. Bye, I have to go.
You know what I miss most about gay clubbing right now? All the drama. Like, once my crush invited me to the club with his gay friends, and what happened was I tried kissing him at the club and he swerves me. I'm like, are we making TikToks now, bitch? Because why are you swerving me? Because it didn't make sense, because we would always make out at school, you know? So why is it a problem at the club in front of your friends? Like, are you ashamed of me, or am I not good enough for you now? I was pretty upset by that, but I didn't say anything. 10 minutes after, his best friend makes a move on me, and then we make out. And then my crush gets like super pissed off. He gets so mad. He's such a petty person. He's always like, I'm a Scorpio, it's my nature. Fuck off. Anyways, what happens after? He calls a person to the club last minute, thinking he's gonna make out with this guy in front of me to spite me. And what happens instead? This guy comes, compliments me, and then we make out.
So when I turned 13, I had a birthday party. It's no big deal. I mean, you know, I was just blossoming, turning into a woman. And so I remember my mom was like, no one's allowed in the rooms. Everyone needs to be outside. If you see anyone inside, you need to tell me. I was like, oh my God, Booma, you don't need to pop off. I get it, Booma, come on. I remember I saw 3 adults walk out of my room. I didn't tell my mom, but let me tell you why. Because I was like, maybe they're designing a gift for me. So the end of the day came, no surprise present came. I'm not mad. Are you mad? Because I'm happy. So we started cleaning up, and then we went to go clean my room in case. Oh, the best part is coming! There was a voodoo doll under my bed. You know, it looked exactly like me. I remember there was one needle on its left eye, another needle on its heart, and it was laying on like a ratchet green leaf. And then next to it, there was a note that said, this is all gonna be mine, in cursive. So then my mom started doing research on this.
Story time. My parents found out that I was dating a white boy. So a little background information. My parents are super strict, especially my dad. And on top of that, my dad thought that races should not mix. One of his sayings was, you don't see a blue jay fucking a pigeon. AKA, white people and black people should not be together. Sounds fucking stupid. Yeah, I know. Anyways, like I was saying, it was my freshman year of high school and I had been dating this boy for 2 months. And of course he was white. And we had to keep it super low-key because if any of my friends found out about it, they would have fucking told my dad. Now when I look back at it, those weren't good friends at all. Anyways, every Friday, my boyfriend and I would go to the movies. And we would go to this theater that was 45 minutes away because nobody that I knew would be there. The only person that knew that I was dating a white boy was my sister. Well, the one day after the movies, I couldn't get a ride home, so I had to get a ride home with him and his family. And as soon as I pulled up, my parents were waiting outside, like for part 2. Part 2 about how my parents found out that I was dating a white boy. So like I said, my sister couldn't come pick me up, so I had to get a ride with him and his family. And what do you know, as soon as we pull up to my fucking house, my dad is standing on the porch waiting for me. So I told his parents to drive around the block one more time while I called my sister and told her to distract my dad. So as we're driving up to my house again, I see that my dad isn't on the porch. So I run into the house before he could see me getting out of a white boy's car. So a few months go by and we're still dating, very low key. And the one night at 3 a.m, I get woken up by my sister. And she says, you better delete any pictures that you have of you and you know who off your phone. And you better come up with the story right now. Because one of your friends took pictures of you walking with him in the hallways and kissing him behind the stairwell at school. So after I deleted everything off my phone, a few seconds later, my dad came into my room screaming his head off. He was so mad. I ended up getting my ass beat, and I also got grounded from my phone for 4 months. But after that, my mom ended up leaving my dad, and then him and I got back together.
Did anyone else take an ancestry DNA test and accidentally uncover a family secret? Because I did, and I really didn't expect to. So my family has always said that we're 100% Irish. That's all we identify as. But we have a Czech last name, and like my dad can tan. So I was like, well, let me see how Irish we really are. And I took a DNA test. It came back, I'm like half Irish and Scottish. I like German, some Iberian Peninsula, some Swedish. Nothing super surprising. I'm like super white. And so like a year passes, I forget about this DNA test, and I get a message from a guy named Falango, who is Polynesian, and he says I'm his highest DNA match and he's in search of his birth dad. And so I look at my DNA matches, and he's also one of my highest DNA matches. He's the only high DNA match that I don't already know as someone who's my relative. And I give him access to my family tree, and he's working with this couple who's helping him out, and they point out something really interesting about my grandfather. So they pointed out something I hadn't noticed. My grandfather was born when my great-grandmother was 15 and unmarried, and it wasn't until 4 years later that she married the guy that I knew as my great-grandfather who gave us our last name. And Falango is in his 70s, so he was conceived during World War II by one of my relatives who was serving overseas in Polynesia. So he thinks that my grandfather is his stepbrother. At this point, I get my family involved. My dad is super pissed that I'm like questioning his bloodline, but my brother agrees to take a Y-DNA test to help narrow down the paternal line. And also, for context, my grandfather died 10 years ago, but this does explain why he refused to answer any questions about his family history. I have no idea if he actually knew who his biological father was. When questioned, he said, "The past is the past." And he was a mean, scary alcoholic, so I never pressed him. So my brother takes the Y-DNA test, and we narrow it down. There's a few false starts, but we find out who my biological great-grandfather is. He's a guy named Albert who lived in Ohio and actually had a Russian last name, not a Czech last name. And he fathered my grandfather and then went to serve in World War II, fathered Falango, came back from the war back to Ohio, and had a daughter and a family there and never told anybody about the other 2 children that he had secretly fathered. And his daughter is still alive, and we reached out to her, and she was very upset to hear that her dad had 2 other kids and that we existed. So I really upset my family and this woman and her family, but I was able to help Falango figure out who his real father was and help correct some mistakes on my family tree. So far, I haven't found a lot of good news on my dad's side of the family tree. So I'll be making everyone mad for years to come.
What is the worst interaction with another human you've had in 2020? I'll fucking go first. I asked a girl out on a date, picked her up, drove her to the fucking restaurant. Right when we parked, she tells me, "I don't think I really want this to be a date." What? I had no fucking idea what I should do. So I just fucking go into the restaurant with her. We sit there like we're strangers the entire time. I had just like blown up a little bit on TikTok. I made a fucking video about the situation and I asked everyone on TikTok what the fuck I should do. As I'm sitting at fucking dinner, my fucking phone just goes crazy. Fucking video goes viral. I'm like reading the comments at dinner, laughing my fucking ass off. I get up to go to the bathroom and my fucking waitress stops me and she says, "I just got off my fucking break. I just saw your fucking TikTok." She was like, "I fucking got this." When I sit down, she comes over. She acts like I'm a fucking celebrity. Gives me her fucking phone number. And the girl I was with was fucking devastated.
Was anyone else paired with someone crazy their freshman year of college? I'll start. My roommate came in the room the first day, set ground rules, gave us curfews, gave us rules, was very strict, told us, like, no smoking, no drinking, no boys, no talking past a certain hour, whatever. Can deal with that. I'm not crazy. But she also went Sasquatch hunting, and her whole side of the room was dedicated to Sasquatch, camo bed, pictures of it. She would go Sasquatch hunting on the weekend with her families. If you ever tried to say Sasquatch wasn't real, she would lose her mind. One time she called 911 because she thought I was on bath salts when I got a piercing and I had the Epsom salt on the table. One time, literally 911. One time the police showed up because they got a report that we were smoking weed. When they got there, she said that she just smelled something fruity and she knew that weed was a plant and it was something she hadn't smelled before. It was Victoria's Secret perfume. There's more.